Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting webinar. I have a very special guest today, and we are going to go over how to get a 150K plus SBIR grant to launch your product without having to lose or risk any money. And I have a special guest, Eric from Inspiralia. Eric, how you doing today, man?
Good, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. Excellent. So we've had a lot of questions about SBIR and STTR, and we're gonna clear up a few of those today.
All right, let's go.
Cool. So Eric has, we're gonna go into his background. Before we do that, I want to show you a few just recent case studies on people that we have been able to help. So the first one, tell us about this one, Eric. Helia Technologies.
All right. So Helia Technologies is a company based out of the Greentown Labs in Somerville, next to Boston.
Okay.
They build a suite of microgrid solutions, improving resiliency and automation of microgrids. So
Nice.
That's something quite interesting for the Department of Energy, National Science Foundation. They needed money to further develop the technology, different scenarios, application scenarios. And yeah, their solution is quite innovative. So National Science Foundation liked the proposal, the Department of Energy liked the proposal. Both agencies wanted to fund them with a grant. Department of Energy funds the first stage grant with 150K, National Science Foundation with 250K. And this is the reason why Helia took NSF, because NSF has 250K phase one stage funding. The phase two is easier to get later on. So yeah, they had.
So they had to go where the money was at, right?
Right. They had the problem to turn down one. It's a good problem to have.
Phenomenal. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Tell us about this one, Eric. And I may chop this up. Also VR?
Also VR.
Okay.
Long story. It's a funny collaboration we have. So we know this client already very well. We started to work with them through a referral from the third company that is on your slide. And so also VR is a company that does virtual reality applications to train surgeons. And there's a lot of applications out there, right? So it's very important for the NIH. NIH has a lot of interest in training surgeons and investing in technology.
Mostly healthcare stuff, right?
Yeah, mostly healthcare stuff. National Science Foundation liked it too. Difference between the NIH and the NSF is that NIH funds very, very healthcare intense projects, and they don't hesitate to fund clinical trials as well. National Science Foundation is more for technical development, everything that's IT, digital health, IT health that doesn't need FDA clearance and clinical trials. So we kind of outlined their research, put them into different proposals, and then presented one part that is more clinical trial intense to the NIH, and then one that is more tech intense to the National Science Foundation. And then we found out that there is a great opportunity to apply to the Air Force, because the Air Force has a lot of surgeons overseas, and they need to train them as well. So yeah, we applied to the Air Force as well, and we got very lucky. We have won all three contracts. The NSF and the NIH, we didn't have to, and the Air Force, all of them were awarded. We didn't have to turn down any of them because they're all different research concepts. One is more for clinical trials, one is more for tech development. Air Force is a typical contract where you basically adapt your technology to the military needs. So the concept and the research of the proposal, the research concepts are all different. So when they're different, you can keep all of them.
Wow.
So twice for the same activities.
One company, three different agencies.
Yeah.
All got funded. I mean, that's incredible. And most people don't know that, right? There's multiple grants for the same technology. You just got to cater the proposal a little bit for what they want to see, right?
Right. And think about it. Also, these are all first stage funds. So now we're chasing the second stage. And to chase the second stage funds, you need to win the first stage. So
absolutely.
Second stage, we expect over 50%, 60% success rate right now.
Wow.
And that's from 750K to 1.5 million. So
Wow.
imagine no equity, nothing. It's just a free grant for that development.
There you go. But you have to know what you're doing. So no, excellent. Thank you for that. And I appreciate one more, and then we're gonna kind of get into who you are and the success. And by the way, I appreciate you joining us. I know you're in a hotel room, always traveling. So thank you.
Yeah, we're on a road show today.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Sure.
So Bloom Life.
So Bloom Life is the company that brought us. Also, we are the company we just talked about. So they knew each other. We started to work with Bloom Life when we had our business back in Europe. We started to fund them in Europe, but turns out they're an American company. So this is actually one of the companies that we started to expand to the US, you know? So this company said, hey guys, you funded us in Europe. We have a similar program in the US. It's the big SBIR program. Do you want to help us? And we said, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And then it worked out. And then, you know, this was basically our kickoff project. And, you know, that's actually one of the projects that brought us to the US. And who knew, you know, we never expected this would become so big.
No, that's
Bloom Life does develop all kind of so in that case, what they do is they developed a medical. It's not a medical device. It's a wearable. It's a patch for pregnant moms. It's like a pregnancy health monitor, and yeah, they got funded over like I think already 2.7 million out of our collaboration.
wow.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Yeah, I think they got. I think most of it comes from a phase 2 grant. Okay. And I'm not quite sure that the phase 2 grant, it's somewhere between 1.5 million and 2 million, the one that they got. So I would have to check it out. But it was a big one.
And that's what people need to understand. These first grants are anywhere, usually 150 to 250K. But after you prove that technology and commercialize it, which we'll talk about in a minute, you get into those 750, $1.5 million grants to roll it out, right?
It's nothing else than risk mitigation on the government side, right? So when you present a project and they like high risk projects, so they would not fund the average, app development, no? So it would have to be something new, innovative, new market, new applications, new technology. So when you present that, high risk. So government says, okay, we fund that, but before we really fund that, we give you a small grant and you prove it's feasible, you know? So this is what 150K $200,000 are for. You basically present and you basically confirm that what you do later on with the big grant is feasible.
Excellent.
You can deal with a grant.
Yeah, no, and that's what people want a lot of times, just to get off the ground. So excellent. We're going to go into kind of who this is for. We showed you a few case studies. So if you're just like Eric just talked about, if you're a startup, if you have that innovative idea, if you have that new technology that's going to be high risk, where you may be in that phase where a bank will not really fund you yet because it's in the idea phase, this is what we're looking for. You have that innovative healthcare technology, that new manufacturing technology that you want to get off the ground and you need help getting a grant for, you're in the right place. And that's what we're working on. So the core concept is, and there's a few things that you need in order to get 150K phase 1, 250K SBIR grant. You're going to need an idea with a great niche. You're going to need a path to commercialization, right? And then you're going to need a website and a grant funding system. And that's what we're talking about today. If you don't know what a grant funding system is, it's okay, because most people don't. Right, we created this. Most nonprofit execs, most innovative technology companies don't have the sufficient time, tools, and talent in-house needed to put all that together. So we're really the only company dedicated technology-wise to put everything together, bring you specialty consultants that know exactly what they're doing and have a lot of success. And Eric and his team are pretty much the best in the game when it comes to SBIR grants here in the US and all over the world. So before I kind of tell you how we do it and what we do, I'm going to tell you why we care, because I think it's important to understand anybody's motivation behind what they do. So just a little bit about me. way we started, and not to impress you, but more to impress upon you why we do this and why we're passionate about it. I grew up here in Texas. I do have a degree in business entrepreneurship. I was the one that kid that also always sold everything, right? Lotions, potions, hope, soap, you named it. But when I got to college and eventually when I graduated, I was in enterprise software and did that for a period of time. But what I was truly passionate about was nonprofits, and I was on a nonprofit that had a lot of notoriety, had a lot of success, but we didn't have a lot of money. So grants was a huge opportunity to move forward. Unfortunately, I didn't know where to find them and I didn't know how to find them. So I just ended up going out to pay a grant writer because I was doing volunteer hours. I was working on my programs, busy at my full-time job as well. And many of you could probably relate to that story. So I paid somebody. Unfortunately, the grant writer that I paid, there wasn't a lot of communication. There wasn't any technology attached to it so I could figure out what they were doing. And eventually they stole my money. And I said, whoa, I mean, this can't happen to everybody, right? You just pay somebody and they steal your money. So I said, look, there has to be a better way. I'm a millennial. There has to be an app for that. And there wasn't. So we created it. And we have helped organizations. And since launching last year, we've helped organizations get about and secure about $5.8 million. It took us 2 years, just trial and error, trying to perfect the system and get specialty consultants. Now we have 1,500 consultants across the US and Canada that are all in their specialty. And we're very excited about SBIR because we've been going after the smaller grants, right? The foundation, the corporation grants. And now we're really getting into federal grants with top consultants that know exactly what they're doing. And we do it at a flat fee and give you investment protection, which is unheard of in this industry. So let me tell you a little bit about Eric. That's about our story and just kind of how Grant Source got started. But Eric, we want to hear about you. Let's start at the very top, man. Inspiralia started in the UK, correct?
Right, you got it. Yeah.
So let's start with the high level details. You guys have helped organizations get what, over $400 million? What was the number?
Yeah, $400 million. And yeah, like I will have to count. I think it's like 500-600 clients.
It was yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
600 clients, $400 million. That's why we want to start working on these large government grants. And we're going to talk about the agencies and everything else, but how did you get involved in this?
So, yeah, it's funny, actually, funny story. So I studied business consultancy and real estate management. And,
okay.
But I was more, real estate was just, pure theory, in a university college. So, yeah, after the business consultancy degree, I started to work in Austria. That's where I'm from, in Vienna. I was working in a consultancy, finance consultancy. So we help companies, optimize processes, establish procedures, cut costs and everything.
There you go.
I wanted to move to Spain because I got to know my wife, So she's Spanish. She lives in Madrid. So yeah, I wanted to go, find a reason to go to Spain. So
there you go.
I inscribed myself in a master degree in Spain, in Madrid, for finance, and I liked it a lot. I found a job after that in Madrid. I worked in Madrid in corporate finance for the big wholesaler Toys R Us, and I got actually a quite good job. I liked it. It was, I managed all the cash management of the European Toys R Us stores and the big offices. So, a lot of intercompany investments and intercompany loans and everything. I like that. However, I grew up in a sales family. So I like my father has his own company. My stepfather has his own company. And we basically, that's the mindset I have. And I needed to go out there. So I like to be a consultant. I like to help and to improve things. But I needed to do something more, you know, operations. And while I was studying at university, I always worked in sales. You know, I always did like all kind of sales jobs, and I was always like traveling and everything. So I missed that. And yeah, then after 3-4 years, I joined Inspiralia. And Inspiralia, you know, is headquartered in Madrid in Spain. So that was amazing. And I thought that could be my door to something more, you know, business development, operations, and strategic development. Yep. And I knew that they always wanted to go to the German speaking markets, you know, because in Spain, in Europe, we have the same grant program. It's just for European companies, and
exactly.
There's a lot of great companies in Germany, a lot of great technology, and in Austria. And it's not as easy for a Spanish company to get into those markets, you know. So I was there. I'm an Austrian, so I have no cultural barrier, you know. So I basically started to build the German-speaking markets for them, and it worked pretty well. It was fun, and after that, I mean, things worked pretty well. I grew in the company, and then
they said, why not the U.S., right? We can do this in Spain. We can do it in Germany.
Exactly.
Yeah, we met one of your guys and one of the doctors that we work with at a hospital, at an MD Anderson event and a Capital Factory event. Yeah. And they said, look, you guys need to hook up with these guys. And I guess you have that new office in Post Oak. So we're excited to work with you guys. So now you're in the U.S., you have offices in the U.S., and not only do you do grants and SBIR grants, you also help with the implementation and then going after government contracts after that as well, right?
So at the beginning, you said we are from the UK, right? Yep. So in the UK, we the very first activity, and that's our root actually. Our root activity is to provide research development as a service and product development as a service. So there you go. In the UK, we were part of a big public network founded by Winston Churchill, and they just helped companies land grants and then do technical development for them.
There you go.
And we kind of, like our roots are there. And then like 20, 25 years ago, we did a management buyout and we created our own company. And those people were Spanish, so this is why they moved everything to Spain. And since ever then, we started to, even before writing grants, we would always have our lab facilities, our technical capabilities, and we would help big consortiums of funded research projects to help them do technical development. So for example, we were always part of like big research programs, and we were never the writer. We were always part of the technical executor. So yep. When there was like Siemens partnering with a university from Salamanca, Spain, with a non-profit organization from the UK, this is like how the European framework programs work. And then we were, for example, the technical, Inspiralia was part of, like, okay, we would execute, for example, we would develop certain coatings for medical devices. We would do, I don't know, you name it. We have an electronic lab, we do IoT, software, hardware development, like almost everything. Nice. What we don't do is we don't do drug development. Okay. And this is how we started. And then, of course, clients asked us to help them also write their research grants because we were all engineers, so we could put that to paper. And this is something we found out that this is the way to win grants, to basically have engineers and scientists work on those grants. And that's how we started. And then I think, like, even when was that? Like 2012 or even earlier, yep. We really launched our own department for funding, so we call it like innovation strategy. And that's basically our department where we work on the proposals and grants and on the military contracts. Basically, this is where we fundraise, and then on the other department, that's the product development department. We call it also technical delivery, is our researchers, engineers working in the labs. And that's the concept we brought to the US. So we do a lot of grant writing, a lot of military contracts, but we also do a lot of technical development.
There you go.
very
You have
often,
over 150 employees, right, in the
yeah,
U.S.?
yeah.
Oh,
Worldwide. Yeah,
nice.
not big, but big enough.
Oh, that's great. So we can really scale here. So let's get into it. What is an SBIR grant? And here's a quote that I got from Grant Cardone. The value of a consultant is not to tell you what you know. Instead, it's to show you what you don't and achieve results faster. So that's what we're going to do here first. Let's go over what an SBIR grant. So the largest source of federally funded early stage R&D funding, right? But you have to have, what's the biggest step here, Eric? You have to have a path to what? Commercialization, right? It can't
Yeah.
just be something, yeah.
So, that's something, I didn't know. That's something I learned when I joined Inspiralia. I didn't know about all those funds. Like most companies don't know about them. So it seemed, all the big players in the world, that's the US, South America, and I'm really statewide and sometimes countrywide. Sometimes it goes by continent. So Europe has a lot of different states, but they all participate in one big framework funding program. Then we have the US with all the different states. Then there are programs in Asia. So it seems like, and that's something I mean, now I know it. That's how it works. But technology and basically technology advancement in different countries is always based on how much funding they provide.
Yep.
Okay, so there's in Europe. I mean, the European Commission they learned that pretty fast. The US learned that pretty fast. So the European Commission and the US federal agencies administered by the SBA launched a program. In the US, it's called the SBIR, and in Europe, it's called Horizon 2020. It's basically to invest a lot of money into the right companies and avoid that they have to dilute all kind of equity technology, the technological, what do you call it, like some advancement, So in this case, for example, those are companies that work on technology on complex stuff where investors wouldn't come in.
Yep.
But you still need that money, So what you do is you apply to these programs, and for the government, it's pretty great because you always want to be the government that hosts all the great technologies. So, like for example, we talked about the surgeon virtual reality application to train surgeons. So they were very early stage, and investors would have. If investors would have provided money, they would have taken at least 40-50% equity. That's crazy, because they were very early stage. So this is the program for that. So don't dilute your equity in a stage that's not ready. That's not a good stage for you to raise funds and apply to those grants. That's the idea.
Yep. And here's the big thing: zero equity. The grant does not have to be paid back. And it funds all of your project costs, both direct and indirect costs. So the federal government has a budget of over 2.5 billion. So here's some statistics: 41 billion, 70,000 patents, 700 public companies, 450,000 different scientists. That's the SBIR program in a nutshell. Okay. So Eric, tell us about there are 26 federal agencies, but there's really 11 agencies that really fund these programs. So tell us a little bit about each one of these.
So all the federal agencies receive a lot of money, right, to spend. Yep. And 11 agencies are over the threshold. And that threshold decides whether you or not you participate in the SBIR program. Yep. So the biggest federal agencies, from agriculture, commerce, defense to National Science Foundation, receive a certain amount, and they have to allocate a certain percentage of that amount to small businesses. So they have to just really provide that money, take that money, and make sure it goes to the right small companies. And that's the SBIR program. Okay, so every year federal agencies have new research development goals. Those goals are executed by universities, by their own people, by their, by all kind of collaborations, but also by small businesses. And it's basically a tool for federal agencies to achieve those research development goals through small businesses. That's the idea. Department of Defense, NSF, which is the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Health, and Department of Energy are like the biggest. They're like the most famous and also the biggest, like non-dilutive investor. So Department of Defense has over 60% of the SBIR funds. So that's 60% of 2.5 billion. Wow. NIH, National Science Foundation, Department of Energy share a big, fund as well. So we are very interested in presenting companies to those agencies because they just have the funds for that. Later we did NASA, we did Homeland Security, but they're like smaller grants. And what we do is when we work with companies, we first try to find out if we find a fit within those 4 agencies.
And so give us an example. So people hear the Department of Defense, but they're more familiar with the agencies inside of that. So give us a couple of examples of the agencies inside of the DoD.
Air Force, Army, Navy. Those are the biggest. It's funny, we have a lot of traction with the Air Force. We found a lot of projects with the Air Force. Seems like that's a company that likes our writing style. It's an agency that likes our writing style. It's really crazy how much money they invest, and it's amazing. Department of Defense, I would say, Navy, Army, Air Force are the most interesting to apply to. They have their sub agencies. Air Force Material Command, Air Force Research Lab. So there are sub-agencies later as well. But these are the biggest ones. In the NIH, we have different sub-agencies as well. The most famous is the NCI, National Cancer Institute. National Science Foundation doesn't have any sub-agencies. They just have different topics of interest, and based on what topic your proposal corresponds to or most responds to, they allocate it to the right program managers. And Department of Energy, the same.
And so can you give us a couple, because I know we have a lot of healthcare companies listening. National Institutes of Health, what are some of the agencies in that one?
So let me see if I can get the list here, because it's a pretty big one.
Yeah, it's huge. So that one has one of the biggest lists of all kinds of healthcare agencies, like the disease control agencies. That's huge. They do a lot in healthcare and diabetes, and we've actually helped a company get into the NIH. I'm sitting in the U of H Technology Center right now, and they get over $200 million a year from the NIH alone. So any healthcare, that's really, really where you want to focus. And you may have some in the National Science Foundation. You just saw 3 different examples of places where you may have 3 or 4 use cases if you may have a good innovative healthcare technology or just regular technology. So
right. Excellent. So I'm having a list here of the sub agencies. There are many, but I can give you some examples of ones that we have worked with and funded projects. So National Cancer Institute, very famous. National Eye Institute has money. Yeah, so they invest into all kind of medical devices and technologies, everything that responds to how, like, to blinding eye diseases, visual disorders, and this kind of stuff. Then National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, very famous. There's a lot of projects going there. National Institute of Aging, NIA, super interesting. They invest a lot into new technologies, everything that improves life of the elderly, doing aging process and everything. So we have like companies. There's actually a company. It's funny that I think about them. They were a good fit. At the end we couldn't work together because they just got funds, I think. So what they were doing is they were developing a wristband that locates elderly when now I'm missing the word right now.
When they
What
fall?
No, not when they fall. Like, yeah, I elderly that suffer from dementia and that, for example, sometimes would leave the place, would leave the house, you know,
Yep.
and they are able to provide alarm systems when they leave, and yeah, it's like a smart home for elderly suffering from dementia. And
Nice.
that's amazing, you know, this kind of technology. Then we have, we're working on a, well, actually, that's not NIA. That's what agency is that?
It's probably National Science
National-
Foundation, but
Oh, right, as well. Remember the company SBIR we talked about? They got funded by the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering. So that's, for example, an agency that funds a lot of projects. However, they have a lot of money, but they have a lot of proposals they get, you know. So success rates are not that high there.
excellent.
You always
But
want
yeah, it's important to do the consulting and knowing where you're going to go. And I just really wanted everybody to know that even though there's 11 agencies, there's probably 100 plus under that. I mean, NIH alone maybe have 100
Right.
sub-agencies under it. So there's a lot of different places to go funding, and there's a lot of places that you could potentially find a good fit for your technology. So who can apply for the SBIR grant? So anybody under the threshold of 500 employees, any US based company, and they have to be, and here's a rule, right, Eric? It's 51% American citizen or American resident owned. So even if you're a foreign national, you can still partner and apply for these, correct?
Yes. So the company that applies has to be majority US owned. So the thing is, for example, we do a lot of work with the Texas Medical Center, TMCX program.
Okay.
We have a lot of companies from Australia. Unfortunately, they don't qualify, you know, because they are not American, even though they have American companies and they are US based, but they want American majority owner.
Yep.
So ownership. So this is the thing, you know, you can partner. We have companies from Europe that partner with American companies and create a new company that works. There's just ways around it. The idea is basically that the research stays in the US, that the research is being executed in the US, and the company spends the grant money in the US. So what they don't want to do is they don't want companies that later take the money overseas. That's the idea behind it, which makes sense.
Yep, and they want that R&D, they want all of that work to be whatever it is to roll it out and commercialize to be in the US. So, nope, that makes sense. So you can look and you can check eligibility. So here's some of the hard facts, right? The principal investigator, the PI, and if you can shed some light on what a PI is, Eric, they must be employed by the business and have 51%. What is a PI?
So the PI is a person that is basically when you define or when you write a proposal, then there's one person that leads this research. Doesn't mean it's a lot of time or commitment, yes, but not a lot of time. But it's the person that has the seniority in the company, but also experience-wise and the necessary academic background to lead those efforts. So if you would, for example, this is something where you have to be careful, you know. So sometimes we meet very great companies with people that do a lot of great technology, but they don't have the experience. They just made it, you know, out of the blue, made it happen, which is great, but then they would not qualify as a PI, for example. So I met a company in Wisconsin. They are 3D printing steel and all kind of iron, and now they want to develop a machine that prints copper. So this guy built everything himself, you know, everything. It's amazing. You can see it. I mean, I went inside there and I saw the lab and everything. It was fascinating. But he himself wouldn't qualify as a PI because he doesn't have the academic background and he doesn't have the experience on paper, you know.
Yep.
So what we do is sometimes we can use him or her even if you don't have the experience, and add a co-PI, which is somebody maybe more academic that has maybe the experience, you know. So this is basically just to justify and to make sure that the company is presenting a project that is being led by somebody that has an idea of what to do, you know. on paper at least. And because we know not everybody has, I mean, you don't work in what you studied. I don't do that. So, but this is the idea, right? And then the PI must be majority employed at the company. That's very important. So you don't have the PI, you don't have to employ the PI at the moment you present the proposal, but later when you get awarded, you have to employ the PI.
It have to be.
Yeah. Right. And that's what I said, research development must happen within the US. You can subcontract 1/3 of the budget to consultants, to, name it, to all kind of technical research centers. So what happens is some companies get funds and then they subcontract us because we know already what they did. So what we do is, we are not the typical grant writer. So what we do is we analyze the company's technology and really like the roadmap to the final product. We pick activities, we mix them around, and because we're engineers, we understand it, So we kind of know what language to speak, how to go there, how to get to their goals, how to meet the goals. And what we do is we set up the projects for them, of course, I mean, always by their guidance, but we basically set up the research development roadmap the right way, so we understand, we think it will get funded that way. So what happens is we dig very deep into the projects. So sometimes companies come to us and say, hey, now you know already everything about us, why don't you develop with us? So we help them, for example, when they need a data scientist, when they need, I don't know, any kind of sensors, there's a lot of things we do. So then we help them. And the 1/3 subcontracting limit is for first stage funds. If you get a second stage between $1 to $2 million, you can subcontract at 50%, which is great.
Excellent. Yeah, and you can get all that work done, get your technology to the forefront, and have somebody do most of the work for you, right? The heavy lifting, and you just focus on what you're really good at. So that's what we're really looking at here. So I'll give you a few places where you can find these if you want to do them yourself, right? You can go to grants.gov, you can go to National Institutes of Health, you can go to American Seed Fund, that's SBIR and STTR. So those are a few different places. Of course, if you work with us and with Grantors, we will find all of the grants that you qualify for up front, both not only at the federal level for these SBIR grants, we'll also do federal, state, even city, right? If you qualify for some of those grants in the interim. And then if you're using or building a building, we'll also do the grant incentives, the rebates, any energy incentives that you may qualify for, even if you're just a tenant. So we'll go through and we'll do a strategy session up front. We'll work with SBIR to find the top grants for you, right? After we register, and we're gonna go over the different steps that you need to register, we'll have the strategy session and map everything out for you if you want to do it with us. And like I said, we're the team you need to get you the money you deserve. And this is our app where you can basically give us your initial profile, and then we will do everything for you. This is you, will be the editor, the grant writer, the researcher, the consultant, the grant manager, the grant writer, and there's another side of this. If you want to do the R&D and subcontract some of the research, we can do all of that and with Eric and his team, and we can scale that out across the country. So is the SBIR for me, and we'll go through this pretty quickly. You want to have these other things in place. You want to have a strong foundation, right? You want to have your mission, your board of directors, your team members, because that's important, especially with your PI. They have to be able to show that they can do this work, and on paper, it's something that they've done in the past. And then you need a path to commercialization and going for digital transformation. All these things are going to be the foundation that you need to get those grants that you want. So real quick, what is an SBIR ready company? You need to have the staff, you need to have the facility, and you need to have the time. As Eric said, they have to be able to be employed majority of the time at the company. Your PI does. You need a focused team that has and well-rounded in that specific area, and have the ability to write academic quality papers and can solve the problem in a reasonable time frame, because these have deadlines, right? As you go on, they give you a certain amount of time and a certain amount of money for you to prove a concept and get to that path to commercialization, because we don't just want to get to phase one. We want to really hone everything down so we can get to the phase two. Real quick, we'll go over this. This is an example that Eric gave us. So company A is proposing a patch that monitors fatal heart rate invasivity, right? They have a 200 square foot laboratory with machinery and want to make this test to patch, right? They have access to 50 to 100 participants where they can test this patch. The team consists of a PhD, mechanical engineer, a CTO, a director of perinatal clinic, and an MBA. So, Eric, the question is, are they ready for SBIR?
So, yeah, they are.
They are. They're ready.
No, they have everything. You know, they have the lab, they have the people. When you see it, when they say 50 to 100 participants, it means they might be a fit for the NIH because they want to do some trials. I mean, it looks good. You know, the PhD in mechanical engineering could be the only thing. Well, it's a heart rate monitor. Maybe electronics would be better, but there's a former director for prenatal clinic. I mean, MBA in health technologies. So it sounds like a good team. Yep. There's no perfect team, never. You know, it sounds good, and that's the company.
And if you don't have some of this stuff, here's the good thing. Eric and our team can help you put some of these things together if you're just in the idea stage. So you want an SBIR project to be innovative, revolutionary, and focused. If it's just something that sounds like every other technology out there, it's not going to get funded, because these are technologies that the government doesn't have, right, Eric? And they want a path to technology that is out there that they don't want to build themselves. They just want to buy it, right? So that's
right. Exactly.
So innovative. Just real quick and jump in anytime here. So you want a high degree of technical risk, has never successfully been done before, has to clear the technical hurdles, and that's what this phase one is really for, and a new take on an existing idea with a modus operandi to get to the next level, right? So anything else about innovate here?
Yeah, so I just want to mention one thing. So some companies with amazing technologies say, well, there has been a company with a similar technology already funded this year, for example. Then doesn't mean that you don't have a chance, you know? So if the government needs, for example, a virtual reality application to train surgeons overseas, then they will not fund one company. They will fund 100 companies that do that, because their risk is way too high just funding one company. And if they need it, they need it. So if your technology is innovative in the right time, you know, then don't hesitate to present and to apply for the SBIR. You know, just because a company got similar technology doesn't mean you don't have a chance anymore. As long as you're innovative, and you know, in the right time, then you know, you have a chance. If you do the same 5 years later, then maybe not. But you know, if you're in the right time for your technology, then this is the right program for you.
Excellent. Next, revolutionary, right? You have to be a step above the competition, hold the potential to the shift of the common practice, be above the status quo, right? Examples of this: a Google search algorithm, medical laparoscope grasper, right? Virtual reality for workforce training, a silent airplane for reconnaissance. Yeah. Anything else? What else have you seen here that's been revolutionary?
You know, like for example, the Google search, like Google has been funded by National Science Foundation.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody knows that.
That's huge.
This is the thing, you know. All kind of companies that work, you know, do something like that. So we have a company that, for I don't know, like digital health training, like apps to like there's a speech app to train emotions to autistic children, then like this is a thing, you know, that would get funded. Then another thing is like microturbines to be employed overseas, this kind of stuff, you know, like technology to make things smaller, to make things more efficient, all kind of clean technologies, you know, from really like super small wind turbines that have the same capacity as the big ones, this kind of stuff. So it's really all over the place. New medical devices, any kind of defense technology, of course. Yeah, you know, there's
all across the board.
Over what you do, and we'll let you know if it's a good fit.
No, that's important. That's important. Excellent, excellent. And then focus. Why does it have to be focused, right? You have to have clear, defined milestones, and each one will have a certain criteria. So let's talk about that.
Right. So, you know, if you're not clear in milestones, then the government and the agencies cannot really measure your success, you know. So when you say, for example, okay, with the first $150,000, I'm going to do a small study with like for example, think about the company Bloom Life with the pregnancy monitor. So they say, for example, okay, with the $150,000, I'm going to recruit milestone 1, 15 pregnant moms in the area of San Francisco to test those patches. Then I will, I don't know, milestone 2, I will create a user-friendly interface. I don't know, stuff like that. Milestone 3, blah, blah, blah. So you have to really like define the milestones to be achieved, well, first of all, make them achievable, but then also to measure your success, you know? So it's like management by objectives. You put objectives and you reach them. This is the idea. And you have to put the right objectives to catch their interest. That's what we do, basically. You know, this is why we're not like grant writers, because if we would just write what people tell us, then we think we would not always fund them.
So yeah, exactly, right? You got to put some innovation behind it, yeah.
We basically try to outline all of this. So we are really like more consultants in this case, you know, like we define the milestones for them. Basically, clients tell us they shoot over all their info. Like we can do this, this, and this, and this. We are interested in being maybe here in 2 years, or maybe here, or maybe here. We can even work with the army, blah, blah, you know. So we kind of process all of that. And then we say, okay, well, that part of your technology could go to the Air Force. That part could go to the National Science Foundation. Then we create all the milestones based on the research goals those agencies have, you know. Yep. And always making sure, of course, we represent the company's objectives, not the agencies, you know. That's the idea.
Excellent. And that's the important thing. You want to have these clear, measurable, achievable goals, right? SMART goals, specific, measurable, right? Achievable and time sensitive. But here's the big thing. You have to have a logical path to commercialization. If you don't, it'll get thrown away. That's probably the number one reason why things get thrown out, right, Eric? Is Absolutely. That budget, and hey, you don't want to sell it eventually.
It might not be so interesting or so important at the NIH, but National Science Foundation, they kick you out. If you don't have a good commercialization plan, you're done.
Yep.
So this is also what we do, for example, because yeah, we're just part of our proposal writing services. And in Europe, for example, since we started in Europe, the grant programs in Europe are very, very strict with commercialization plans. So we have amazing commercialization writers in Europe that help us in the US sometimes, you know? So that's really important. Yeah. You really want to make sure you understand your market.
Excellent. Excellent. So here's a quick example. We have a MVP, right? A minimal viable prototype, and we'll commercialize to X market in 5 years, expand to X regional markets by year 8. Not. Global market for the product is Y million, expected to have a 2% of the market share in 5 years with the total revenue of Z million. Talk to me about that, Eric. Is that good?
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad.
Okay. All right. So we want to have a clear path to commercialization, what we're going to do, and not only have the product, but where's the product going? How much money are we going to make? in year 2, 3, 5, 8. So that's important.
If you work on a medical device for, I don't know, it's just a medical device for, I don't, give me an application, like a sample. What can be a good example? A medical device for, I don't know, there's so many out there. Like
for patient monitoring.
Let's say for patient monitoring. Okay?
Yeah.
Then your market is not medical device market. You know, your market is patient monitoring market. It's the hospitals. It's all the all the players and stakeholders that involved in the patient monitoring process. So that's why we see a lot. You know, like a company, let's say for example, they would do a patient monitoring medical device. And when you read a proposal, they say, "Hey, the medical device market is 500 billion."
Yeah.
Like, no.
What's your niche? Yeah, exactly. We need to know what your niche is. That's so important to dig down and to get the details, right? Otherwise, it's a non-fundable proposal. So, no, excellent, excellent. So the SBIR program is not just for basic research. Remember, commercialization, we have to make money. Phase 1 proposals must have at least a basic business plan, a plan of attack, revenue streams, a plan to protect IP. And this is another reason why things get thrown out, because if you have this great proposal but no way to protect it, somebody else can take it right from under you, right? So a review of the market, and then phase 2 proposal must have a fully flushed out commercialization plan, because you did subject matter experts, you did case studies, you went out and did interviews in the phase 1. So no matter how great the technology, if it cannot be commercialized, it's not going to be a fit for the SBIR. So here's technology readiness, and I know we're going a little over, but it's important for you guys to understand that. So in the very first stages, here's the pre-game changers of funding. You have your basic research, your research feasibility. You want to prove out that concept, have that technology development, and then the prototype development. After this is for phase 1, right? You're going to do all of this. Your game changers, your innovation, your tier 2 technology demonstration, and then let's go to this other side, Eric. Once you get past this stage, this is phase 1, phase 2, that's when you're ready for other things, right, Eric? Like the corporate equity investment. You fully tested it out, you fully fleshed it out, correct?
Exactly. So this program is intended to bridge the gap from 2 to 6. You know.
Yep.
This is like, think about it. When your company is somewhere 2 to 3, you need money, and that stage you lose so much equity. So those grants, if you do it well, bridge you up to tier level 6. Then from the technology readiness level 6 or 4, you can get some healthy VC funding.
There you go.
Right.
Yep. No, that's what we want. So stage 3, and this is the last stage. What do we need to do to scale up and expand these grants by staying compliant? So the first thing you need to do, and let's walk through this because this is important. You can't just show up on our doorstep or anybody else 2 weeks before the grant deadline and say, hey, I want this grant written. The deadline's in 2 weeks. There's specific things that you have to have and registrations that you need, or else you're not going to be able to apply for that grant. So let's walk through this. You need an EIN, right? You need a corporate entity, whatever that is, that is associated with that EIN. And then you need a DUNS number. You used a DUNS number to get your EIN. Everything has a precursor. So in order to get a SAM number, you need to have a DUNS number, which you got from your EIN. In order to register on grants.gov, you need a SAM number, which you got by getting your DUNS number, which you used by getting your EIN. And then you have to be in the different agency portals, which you have to be registered by grants.gov, which you needed a SAM, you needed a DUNS and your EIN, and then an SBA company register, and you need your agency portal, be registered on grants.gov, SAM, DUDS, and your EIN. So this is very important when you register, right? It can take up to 6 to 8 weeks to complete all the registrations. And if you make errors, that's very common. You have to almost, start all over and start that timeline again. So it's very important to work with experts if you have never done it before. So any comments on that, Eric?
You're right. Nothing to add.
Yeah, I mean, it happens so many times. So just know, you want to get ahead of these registrations a couple months before the deadline at least, and give yourself time to write the grant, or a consultant like us. So you find the perfect topic or match, and there's a multi-pronged funding approach, right? You have your idea of conception. That's when you thought about the idea. You want to validate it, have a kickoff meeting, draft the proposal, right? To make sure everything's right. During this time, you're going to determine your objectives, build your team, get letters of support, which is important so they know that somebody else is behind this particular proposal, right? And then in that draft proposal, you want to adapt to another agency or a funding mechanism. You also want to expand other aspects of the project. And with that, you can also look for other agencies that you can kind of match that project to. So that's what we have in the proposal lifecycle. The biggest takeaway I want everybody on this webinar to have, it's not immediate. Really, it's going to take probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, from what we've seen, it's going to take about 6 to 8 months, right, to really get through that proposal, get through all your registrations. Even if you're awarded today, it takes a little bit of time for that funding to happen, right? So later means never. We need to get on it now.
So give you an example. We are right now recruiting for the deadlines that are in March next year. Yep. So companies that want to go for a March deadline, they need to jump on board before January 2nd. Yep. That's the idea, because we need 3 months, 2 to 3 months to get everything done. Because if you miss one of these things, you don't get the grant. And we are heavily performance-based, so that's also very important for us as a business. We want to make sure that our clients have everything and have the same chances when they get submit a proposal. So, like letter of intent and letter of recommendations, this stuff is important, and you don't get this like within you don't get this overnight. This is the thing.
Yep, it takes time. So that's what we really validate. Not only do we help you with the grants and help you find things up front in your strategy session, we build that hypothesis. And once you're in that, we can even help you with your marketing to build that product market fit or project support fit even before you have, the grant funding, because you have to have a valid website and they know what you're doing is real before you get funded, because they're going to look at it, right? They're going to look at the documentation that you have. So we helped you with this all the way through. And what we really want to get is, just like some of the use cases that Eric just said, we want to get to that $1 million grant action flow, to where you have, $1 million coming in, and that's realistic, right? Phase 1 is 100 to 250. Then we're looking at 750 to 1.5, $2 million for grants. And that's gonna heavily be based on your engagement in building a grant funding system. So we'll help you with your SEO, your reputation management, get your everything on a bunch of different sites. That way you have an updated listing and people know who you are when they go look for you. We'll update and do your reputation management on 75 different directories, and even manage the analytics for that. And we do that with what's called the cause center. And in that cause center, we create this for you. That way you can be attractive for all areas of grants, right? For nonprofit grants, for profit grants, for these SBIR grants. And we really build that overall grant action flow for you. So last one, project validation. And we'll wrap up here. Company X is creating a home-based intervention in teletherapy model, which caregivers will carry out tasks previously performed by a therapist. So it's new technology. The shift This shift burden of execution from the therapists to the caregivers. Furthermore, Company X is creating a machine learning based tool for speech therapy, patient and clinician support to both tailor therapy plans and identify development delays earlier. A little bit of tongue twister. What agency could Company X fit, and how many can we apply to?
Exactly. So this is a typical validation material. So when we talk to companies, we try to, they send us materials, presentations, and all kind of previous, maybe even previous grant documents, and then we basically try to find out what agencies do they fit,
Yep.
what success rates do they have when they go there. For example, I told you there's some agencies at NIH where you just don't want to go, or you just want to be very sure that's a really good fit. And then, yeah, what we do is usually once we work with a company, we try to leverage the potential and apply to several institutes and agencies just to diversify the risk, you know. And that's what we did with SBIR. If you remember, the company got funded at the NIH, at the NSF, at the Air Force. So this is what we do. And this is part of validation is how many can we apply to. We don't do more than 3 usually. Until we see more results, of course. When we see more results, then we're open to do more. And yeah, and what agencies can we go to?
Yeah. So here's what we found. We have about so at the foundation and corporate grant level, we have about an 85% success ratio. Right now at the federal level, it's about 60%. So what we do is we package it and at least do 3 grants and 3 submissions, and I'll go over packages in a minute. But to ensure your success, we are the only organization that offers investment protection. So whatever you invest with us, and we'll go over packages in a minute, if we don't at least get your investment back within 12 months of writing that final proposal, we will continue to write at no cost, or continue or give you a credit for the difference. Most people, right, opt to get the 150 and have us continue to write. So that's very important. So it's risk-free. You don't have to risk any money. So here's some of the application essentials. You need an innovative product with significant impact. It's not about the money. It's really all about the impact, even in these SBIR proposals. You need strong evidence that technology works as intended. And that's what these phase 1s are for. Understanding the market potential, customers, commercialization, the strategies, support for potential customers, from partners, from different people or investors that are going to be using it, strong management team or advisory board, and R&D, communication with strong R&D is encouraged. So that's important, and we we can help you with all of this. If you want to try to do it yourself, here's a few tips. But here's why letters of support are important, right? They add credibility to your proposal. From the right contact, a reviewer will see the commercialization potential right away. Shows focus on commercialization as a goal of the product, which is the #1 thing that you want. Here's some of the do's. Find potential customers, funding sources, or potential clients. State the value and importance of the innovation in a certain market. Get commitment from the writer, and I'll move this. If possible, the writer should offer their time for questions. Sometimes the reviewers may actually contact them, and you can contact the reviewers as well, and all that's found in our platform. Some of the don'ts: don't give us a book, right? Let's keep this to 1 page. Find an expert that really attests to the niftiness of your innovation. No just universities or consultants. Do not have an old date. If this is written in 1986, it has no weight, right? It must be recent. And then have the same format and the same kind of verbiage on on different letters, right? You don't want to have that. If they all sound the same and it's cut and paste and you have 20 of the same letter, they're like, okay, so we know what this is, right? So that's very important. Anything to add there, Eric?
Nothing to add.
Okay, excellent. So You want to, in writing the proposal, avoid any kind of crazy language or jargon. Try to use high-level sales versus very technical academe. Use words and phrase in FOA. For those people that don't know, what is FOA, Eric?
Sorry, could you
What
repeat
it,
that?
when we're talking about language, use words and phrases in FOA.
Oh, you want to know what FOA is?
Yes,
Wow, funding opportunity announcement.
there you go. So
Yeah.
use the same
But
words.
it can mean all kinds of stuff, you know.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to clear up there's a lot of acronyms in here, and in the platform there's over 1,000 different grant terms that you can find. So if there's ever an acronym that you don't know, you can find that in quick terms, right? So every single proposal has a scoring rubric, and you want to use some of the same words, some of the same verbiage in there, so it looks like it's specifically for that proposal. And then proofreading is very important, right? So formatting, simple color scheme, you want anchor statements, use the correct formatted text, and make sure all the fonts are the same, which is important if you see people cutting and pastes. So content, spell it out, even numbers sometimes. Quantify whenever possible, use figures and tables instead of just heavy text. Here's an example, formatting wise. One is a lot easier to read. It's formatted. People can see exactly, kind of where you're going. The other one just looks lumpy and everything's in one place, and it may be much harder for them to read. Anything to add there, Eric, formatting
No,
wise? Okay, so
that's good.
that's important. Post application for reviewers, what do we need to know, Eric?
So reviewers are, all people. That's why we showed this perfect example. So make it easy for them. Like if you put like too much on one page, then I don't even want to read it. And don't make their life difficult. This is the only thing that's the message. So write a proposal as you would want to read it.
As you would want to read it. Excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent. So just how this works, and like I said, set the expectation 6 to 8 months. So month one, right? We need to gather everything up front. We'll do your strategy session. We need sufficient technical and commercial potential to justify a review. Falls within the scope of the solicitations and topic, and proposes research in science, engineering, or education. So for this one, we're talking about a specific agency in the NSF, but this is just to kind of show you the timeline, and we do this for every single agency. The merit review, all proposals are carefully reviewed by a minimum of 3 experts, right? Fields represented by the proposals. The reviewers may not be expert of your field, so we want to write and get that information accordingly, and we have a template for you to do that. The panelists will also include expert in the commercial product development to access commercial viability, right? So we want to make sure that we get all that information up front, and then you have 3 or 4 resources that'll really help you dig down into this. So the NSF will get that the programmatic review to make sure that everything is there. We will write the funding and the recommendation. If you get a decision and a funding commitment by month 5, it can take, and keep me honest here, 30 to 90 days, right? Sometimes to actually get the funding. So even though you get the funding, a commitment and the award, that's not cash in the bank. That's something totally different. So you want to keep that in mind. So that's why, just to set the expectation, probably 6 to 8 months to get some of these larger proposals. So, and wrapping up here, you can do everything yourself, right? It'll take you time to start researching everything. You could build all the initial systems and databases, and the problem is you may get a false negative. You may be applying to some agencies that don't want your proposal, right? And you don't have the economies of scale over going after a bunch of proposals. We have specifically SBIR focus only. How many proposals is your team writing every single year, Eric?
It's a lot. So, 30, 60, 90, 120, maybe more.
Yeah, so that's minimum, and that's before we created a partnership, right? So that's gonna double or triple with all of the business that we have for them.
Actually, I was just counting NSF now. So
Yeah, no,
imagine.
that's one agency, right, that we talked about. So you talk about 400 or 500 proposals going out of year. That's a lot of expertise versus you trying to just do it yourself, right? That we can kind of get experts and pull in other places. You may struggle analyzing the right funders and scaling out for multiple grant proposals. You may be thinking about one agency where we're writing multiple proposals, and we may have 2 or 3, and we showed you a couple use cases at the beginning that may be interested in your proposal. So you can actually get the grant, and we can, the biggest thing is you don't want to lose money, right? It's extremely challenging to line up all these pieces properly, especially if you want somebody to do the research and development and don't have that in-house. You're probably good at what you do, but you're probably not good at everything. And we can multiply those efforts across everything. So if you've never done it before, there's a good chance you may not be successful and lose a bunch of money. Like I said, for one company, one proposal, we have about, at the federal level, about a 60% success ratio, and we multiply that up by doing multiple proposals and multiple submissions. Average rate of success, if you just do one proposal and you've never done it by yourself, it's in the single digits. It's about 8% if you tried to do this by yourself. So yes, you can try to save money, but you may be beating your head against the wall trying to do all of this by yourself. So option 2 is, you can work for us. We've been across multiple conferences. We've been Best in Show at AFP. We're a Capital Factory backed company. Just so you know, grant professionals wise, we put some of the top, we basically built Uber for grants. So what we have is we've gone to the top grant writing associations, the top consultants like Eric and his team that have specific items that they do and they do very well, and basically put them on retainer and said, hey, we want to bring you guys volume. It'll be good for you. You'll get more customers. It'll be good for our clients because they'll get a better streamlined rate, and we'll wrap our technology platform and investment protection around it. Like I said, similar to Uber for grants. So all of our consultants have received at least $1 million in grants, at least 3 years of experience, and part of an overarching major association. In Eric's team's case, we're talking about over $405 million and about 600 companies that have been funded. So we only work with the best consultants in specialty areas. Last couple weeks ago, you saw the marketing consultants, and we've been very successful in getting that $120,000 Google grant for marketing. So we just network and put everything together for one cohesive package. Not only are we in the US, we're also in Canada. And I'm actually taking a trip down to Mexico and Guadalajara in a few weeks to open up that space. So we have clients all across the board, right, in all kinds of different verticals. And in a few months, we'll have one specifically for all the different verticals we've helped just with SBIR. Just credibility wise, if you go to aws.amazon.com/startups, aws.amazon.com/startups, you will see us on the front page. We're actually featured as one of their top fastest growing startups. And like you said, you'll be on that. You can see us on their front page. So we're excited about that. And that's kind of how we got hooked up with Eric and his team. We have a lot of companies. We're built primarily on AWS, and there's a lot of companies looking for SBIR grants. So we're excited about that. So here's what you get. We're going to quickly validate your funding system, right? Specifically for SBIRs, we're going to help you get to your fundraising goals quickly. We'll also help you create a cost center, remain extremely capital efficient without having to lose money, hire the right team at the right time, and scale up effortlessly, right? So if you need R&D, if you need a package to help you with some of that funding as well, we can do that. So here's what you get. You'll get all kinds of videos, templates, tools, and we have all these templates for you that are available in our platform. You'll get access to a strategy session 24/7. You'll get access to our technology platform, and you'll know exactly where each project's at, what stage it's at, and if you want to talk specifically about that project, you can put in what's going on or where you think we should be, and you'll have over 10 consultants that look at this that will be dedicated in different areas, right? You'll be a part of our community and you get everything, right? At the federal, city, county, state level, you get databases, you get analytics that analyzes missions that have given to yours in the past for the highest rate of success, alignment, and will help you with those letters of support, personnel, research, and a system license as a service. So what we want to do, we'll get these Q&A calls. We'll also manage, if you want, all of your Google ads and all of your website and your landing pages to show a path to commercialization. Now, here's one of our packages for cause centers, but we have a special package for those of you that want to do SBIR, and I'll show that. We'll put this like right now on the webinar. Usually what we do, and Eric and I have come up with a special package where you get at least 3 grants. Will help you with all of your certifications, will help you with all of your filings, your EIN, your DUNS, your SAM. We will help you with your grants.gov registration. We'll also help you with your, if you're a minority, your minority business certification as well. And then we will help you get, if you need to get hub certified, we'll do that as well and help you with that certification. We'll do your landing page for you. And then we'll do at least 3 grant proposals with 3 resubmissions. We'll also do your foundation grants, your celebrity grants, and your corporation grants, and create what's called a cause center for you. So that way you also have a $50,000 tax write-off. So I know there's a lot of different packages for you right now. What we can do as far as next steps, and I'll fill in those specific packages in there. Pick a package that you want based on how much you want to raise, because that is how we do our packages, is based on how much you want to raise, right? So we help people really raise anywhere from 50K to over $1 million, and we have specific packages for that depending on what your life cycle is. So anywhere, it depends on what kind of grants you want, foundation, corporation. So let's figure that out specifically for you. You can put down a $500 refundable deposit, click on the link below, and then from that, we will be able to book a strategy session and see if we can even help you, right? And if you don't like what you hear at that strategy session, it hasn't happened yet, but if you don't like what you hear, put down that $500 deposit. We'll show you the list of grants in your area. We'll get all your specific questions answered, and then we will go through that so we can get you in the queue. Here's the thing, we're only bringing on 20 new clients for this next funding period. Like I said, we're recruiting right now for early 2020, because like it takes at least 6 to 8 weeks to get all of these registrations done. So put down your $500 deposit, click on the link below, and we will get you going. Our fees are heavily, it's a flat fee up front that's very manageable. And then we do all the administration for you on the back end, and we can also do the research and development depending on what you want. So you can put that down. Like I said, that'll reserve your spot. I think we'll have about 160 people on this webinar. If you have any questions, we will answer them specifically for you, but put down your $500 deposit. We'll go from there. And the biggest thing is the investment protection. So if we don't, whatever you invest with us, whatever package you choose, if we don't at least get that investment back within 12 months of getting your proposal in and submitted, we will continue to write at no cost or give you a credit for the difference. This has never been done before in the industry, so we're definitely very, very excited to work with you. So we're about to sign off. Eric, anything you want to add? I appreciate your time, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. And Eric's actually flying around the country doing the road show. He's in a hotel, but he still joined us today. So thank you, Eric.
All right. Hey,
all right. Well, everybody have a blessed day. Remember, it's not just about the money. It's all about the impact that we want to create with your technologies, with your programs, all of your things that you're going to create to make this world better. So everybody have a blessed day. Thanks for joining.
Awesome. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.